here at Inman Connect, there's a lot of tech, and that means there's a lot of really cool company names as well. And I'm about to chat to someone who has one of the coolest company names I've come across so far. Jeff Lobb's company, SparkTank Media, does a lot in the speaking, training and coaching space for people in real estate and mortgage, as well as training around systems to improve productivity and sales. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And I mean it very much. SparkTank Media, the name is really cool. Where did that come from?
So a lot of people think it came off the play of Shark Tank, which has been a very popular show, and unfortunately has nothing to do with that. We've had a growing nickname in the business world for me as Sparky. And I always wanted to have that spark or catalyst of kind of a name. We meshed it together, and SparkTank was born.
It works perfectly for you.
Thank you.
See that.
Yeah.
So look, your company is about improving productivity, often through systems, etc. But what are the mistakes that people are making when they first come to you that you're spotting?
A lot of times, when they first approach, they're either having some set of problems. Most of the times, it's either not the right activities, not consistent activities, or not the right systems to manage the activities. So sometimes it becomes a fact-finding mission to see where they went off the rails, where they want to be, and then we have to create that formula to kind of get them back on track and then hold them accountable.
Yeah, right. As we said before, you're very systems orientated. It's in the bio of the company. But a company comes to you first off, if they're a startup, what are sort of the first things they really need to address in terms of systems?
Well, it depends on whether it's a company or a lot of times I'm coaching teams and brokerages too. Yep. So most of the time they have issues and challenges with managing leads, lead sources. Being able to take a lead and not, if they don't convert it in the first week or two, will they convert it 9, 10, 11 months out? And a lot of times the answer is no. No systems, no discipline, no follow-up in place to make that convert down the road.
Right. One of those things that you're going to have to deal with a lot is change management.
That's right.
Now, are you finding that that's still challenging? Are people got to be dragged kicking and screaming into new moves, or how do they get to adapt to that mindset nowadays?
The typical top producer mentality, and I know this because I lived in that world for a while, my mindset, we're very kind of all over the place sometimes. We're hunters, we like to go get into business, so they're not really well adapted to systems. So what we have to do is find that counterpart in their business, their team manager, their administrator, that can help keep that person functioning and yet manage those systems. Because most times the top producer mentality is not that person.
Right. The other element that you deal with is obviously promoting people and brand through some training in dealing with media. And I was thinking you're one of the most sought after speakers that I've run across.
Thank you.
Which is pretty exciting. But in your line of business, are there some people who just should never attempt to try and speak in public?
That's true, and I see them sometimes.
Can anyone be trained to do that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I took a project on several years back with that challenge in mind, where we took on, it was actually called Deliver. It was a pilot that I ran with the company where we took in 10 either C-level execs or managers or that were speakers maybe, or were out there trying it, but they wanted to elevate and it was a huge success. I'll tell you, I was very shocked what you could do in a day and a half. We literally took them from doing a live presentation for 10 minutes on their own without preparation to then making them do it in a format where we start to distract them, creating distractions, like literally when the slides go down or the microphone stops working, and we put them all through these little challenges that made them think and how to know their presentation without a slide. And then we started to do some exercises. By day 2, by the 3rd or 4th time they've done that presentation, they were nailing it. We taught them how to walk the stage, how do you work the floor, how do you use your hands. It was amazing to see results in a day and a half, which I didn't even expect myself.
And these techniques that you've learnt yourself over all these years of public speaking, because the distraction technique is something that I know they use in acting and people with speech impediment. Is it something that really, these sorts of techniques, things that have developed?
Yeah, no, I'm self-trained. I've never been through a formal training.
Yeah.
It's all been what has happened to me, how I either made the mistake or how I was able to get through it. And let's face it, we make a lot of mistakes, so I learned very easily how to overcome that. So it was put together based on 30 some odd years of life experience in the business.
Great teacher, isn't it? Experience is always a great teacher.
It was fun for me too. I loved making a mess of them because, when you can derail somebody, you have intent to bring them back. Sometimes you got to break them down, to lift them back up. and they were so excited with the results on day 2. It was outstanding. So I was very shocked myself.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
The other thing is, of course, that nowadays, the pace of media and profilers moves so fast, and it's quite a crowded space. How are you teaching people to really stand out, in particularly the social media space, in the idea of promoting their brand and producing productivity?
I think the biggest challenge we're having is still, we use the word, but I don't think we practice it, so I hate to use the word. But we all say authenticity. You gotta be authentic.
Yeah.
And that sounds great. But people aren't practicing it. Meaning, they create a business page for real estate and all they're showing me are some listings or something or some articles. When in today's world, the consumer wants to really know about you, the person. Are you a grandparent? Do you have children? What do you do on weekends? And people, for some reason, are afraid to share that. That's the change and the shift, where we're watching some really good leaders right now, CEO levels of big brands, really step outside the box, doing video, posting stuff on their weekends. Most C-level execs in our business were always behind closed doors, unapproachable. And we're watching a few really grasp it and make a big impact of sharing the day-to-day of what happens in your world.
And how does traditional media fit into that? Because there is still that mindset that if you've got to be in the paper to get your profile up, but perhaps that's not so important anymore.
No, I think it's a lot about building that like and trust. With just consistent business content. You're not building anything with me. It's almost like the definition of insanity. You keep doing that same thing over and over, and you're expecting something to happen, and nothing does. So we're telling people, listen, just stop doing that. Like if it's not working, no one says you have to do it, but if you're going to do it, let's do it different in a way that either A, you get attention, or B, you get to build an audience that likes and trusts you as a person. And I think that's the hardest part of shift, coming from a very professional world into more of a very social world.
Yeah. And so it's not an easy adaptation for these people to make.
No, I mean, looking at some of the average age groups in the business, a lot of that group doesn't like change. Change is very difficult. And yet, if you've been in real estate for 32 years, it's always changed. Like, our business has changed dramatically. So they say they don't like change, but yet they've lived through it.
Yeah.
So it's just getting their mindset straight.
That's right. Yeah. And look, you've touched on something. Finally, we're at a tech conference, and some of the things we've seen here, some of the speakers we've had are really at the forefront of where change is going on in this space. What do you see as some of the really important developments that are occurring over the coming few years that we should keep our eye out?
Well, I think there's some things that have gotten a little static. I mean, we've heard some things coming. We've been hearing AI and artificial intelligence, and that's still evolving. It's finally starting to get a little bit of traction to now I understand how I would use it or how it's going to help me. So I think some of these companies are starting to bring it to life a little bit. We're looking at a lot of more visual content. How do we create visual content, not just digital content? To me, the digital content is like the BlackBerry of the day, having BlackBerries. Visual, really beautiful, authentic photos and video content. So that's where the evolution's happening. I don't see anything like staggering that's changing the next year, but I think in the next 5 to 10 we'll see a big shift.
It's fascinating. I mean, we really are in a very interesting times, aren't we, Jeff?
Yeah, we're going to see some of the big Amazons and the other big players in the space get into a lot of other businesses that they're not in right now.
Yeah. Jeff, you've been generous with your time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.